Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. I'm Mehmet from Memli Coffee Lab, and today we are going to continue our Flat Bottom Throwdown. Last time we stopped at part 4 or 5, but this time I brought back an old contestant, the Origami. If you remember, I ended up between the Torch and the April Brewer, and I personally prefer slightly more the cleanliness and clarity of the April Brewer. We are going to let the April Brewer for the last part. But for this round, I wanted to compare side by side two very popular flat brewing devices often used in competition level. And here I paired it with a Siberist fast filter. On my left, you have the Orea UK, and on my right, the popular Origami. I already pre-wetted my filters, fold them, and prepared everything. We are going to use here our Kenyan coffee. I'm going to use 13 grams of coffee for 200 grams of water. My water is at 93 degrees C, and I'm going for 3 equal pours of 66, 67 grams. The one striking difference between those two brewers is the size. We have a slightly smaller size for the Orea brewer versus the Origami. Therefore, we cannot use huge volume on the Orea. That's why I'm using 13 grams of coffee for 200 grams of water in 3 pours. The grind size is exactly the same. It's a 7 on my DD. So we're going to taste, measure some TDS, and come back with some results. They finished pretty close to each other, 2 minutes 20 and 2 minutes 24. So more or less the same with the same grind size. But as you can notice, we have different angles and the holes are different. Here you have one hole versus a different geometry in the bottom. On the smell, slightly more intense for the Orea. You have more expression of those currants, those grapes, and a little bit rounder on the Origami. Let's taste now. Again, a little bit more intensity of flavors, more volume of flavors for the Orea, and a little bit more mild, mellow balance on the Origami. On the complexity of flavors, it's the same. You can easily distinguish the currants, the hibiscus part, and the grape part as well. But obviously, they highlight in slightly different ways, right? Acidity, zesty, very vibrant, very lively for the Orea, and juicy here. So lively, juicy, slightly more down on the Origami, but as I say, more balanced, more round. Texture and body. Nice syrupiness. Very elegant, very creamy, slightly higher on the Origami. The finish, because we are dealing here with flat bottom brewers, and they are known to highlight that sweet aspect. I want my coffee to shine is to showcase a balance of sweetness as well as brightness and flavor complexity. Nice sweetness. You can definitely feel more of that sugary aspect on the Origami versus a nice balance on the Orea. We still some sweetness. You can still feel it's almost like a different kind of sweetness. This one is more, should I say, fructose-like, and this is more sucrose-like. It almost feels like we added sugar to it. It's super, super sweet, super nice. And this one is more like the natural sweetness from the flavor from the coffee. natural sweetness from the fruit, sorry. All right, let's measure the TDS. Okay, so we let those coffee cool down. We measure the TDS and the extraction yield. And for the Orea, we average extraction yield of 17.5, which means that we can go a little bit finer here, right? And for the Origami, we have an extraction yield of 18.2, so slightly more extraction on the Origami. And in the cup, as it cools down, you still find a good clarity. And here the acidity goes down as it cools down, of course, and make it really, really pleasant on the palate. Really love the clarity, the transparency, and the depth of flavors. Here, we maintain those sweetness and a very nice brightness as well, but more toward a sweet tone. So here, you really have for the Origami, a sweet cup of coffee, and the Orea, slightly more clarity and slightly more clarity and brightness, often close to a cone-shaped brewer, for example. To conclude, with the Seaberries filters, we have both excellent results. Now, with the Orea, we can go a little bit finer, which we will do in a next round. But here, my heart goes for the Orea brewer because it produces slightly brighter cup of coffee and slightly more nuance in the cup. The Origami is excellent if you have a sweet tooth. It's more of a crowd pleaser, especially with the Kenyan coffee, right? That showcase more a sweet aspect of the coffee. That showcase more the sweetness developed during the roast, for example. But the Orea highlights the true essence of Kenyan coffee with that brightness that couples extremely well with the natural sweetness from this coffee. Very delicate, very bright, so very sweet. I go with the Orea. Next, we will have our finale, the Orea versus the April Brewer. All right, welcome back to the last but not least Flat Bottom Showdown. Over the last couple of weeks, I compared side by side every single flat bottom brewers that we can find on the market and ended up in a finale between the April Brewer and the Orea Brewer. Let's dive into this brew. So our system will be quite simple. I'm going to use 12 grams of coffee for 200 grams of water using the Seaberries filter that we compared with the other kind of flat bottom filters. You can check the video somewhere out there. And here I will do my classic 4-pour structure. We are going to brew these coffees with our last release from Pilko Kaha. It's our first lot release from Pilko Kaha. It's a mix of Ethiopia and Typica varieties, naturally processed with notes of sugarcane, tropical fruits, florals, and a nice praline finish. Those my coffee, 12 grams each, and I'm gonna start with the first pour of 50 grams. Now the main difference in the structure of those brewers is the angle. We have a steeper angle on the Orea and a little bit more open on the April Brewer. Therefore, the depth is a little bit more shallow on the April Brewer and more concentrated and high on the Orea one. I'm gonna let it bloom those coffees for 45 seconds and do the second pour. Remember, here we are using the Seaberries filters, therefore it allows me to go a little bit finer and get nice aromatics. Here I'm at 6.5 on my Deeding, so quite, on the finer range of your pour over. Now it was a real tight between the Orea and the Origami earlier in the previous showdown, so I will still put the Origami among those top 2 or top 3. Let's come back with some results about timing and taste. All right, as I say, I want super fine on this one, and as a result, we have a finish of we finished our brew in 3 minutes, which is quite long for the Seaberries, but I really wanted to push that extraction for the Orea, and 3 minutes 20 for the April Brewer. Now on the aroma, let's check the aroma. For the April Brewer, Very fruity, very soft. I can smell that delicate tropical note, which was very hard to extract sometimes. I can smell the praline, the sugarcane, all really in balance, very round, but very, very soft, even the floral. On the Orea, little bit tropical, sugarcane, little bit more intensity on the Orea, just a tad, but is it better? Is it not as good? Honestly, this is more subjective. It's just in terms of intensity, you have more intensity on the Orea, slightly less on the April Brewer, but complexity-wise, same. Let's check for flavor. For flavor, very similar. There's, when it's hot, there's not a lot that differentiate those two coffees, even though there's 20 seconds difference. But on a live tasting, we taste the tropical notes, the praline aftertaste, some florality in the beginning, and sugarcane sweetness. Maybe the emphasis is a little bit different. The April Brewer emphasized more that roundness, and I feel more the lingering, which is more about the aftertaste, but the lingering praline finish. Whereas the Orea highlights more the florality, the fruitiness, and the kind of sweetness intensity. But once again, quality and complexity-wise, very the same, much the same. Let's check for, and quite heavy on the, heavier on the Orea. For this one, I kind of prefer that silky, delicate texture that the April Brewer offers. So for the body and the texture and the mouthfeel, I'll go for the April Brewer. Aftertaste now. As I said earlier, more praline, kind of chocolatier finish, and very soft, and a little bit more lingering on the Orea. So for the finish, Orea. Brightness, acidity. You know, even though I roasted this coffee quite light, it's still a medium, round, structured, complex acidity. And for the acidity, it's really tiny, but slightly more juiciness on the Orea. Don't get me wrong, this is a very balanced cup of coffee, very harmonious, but to get more that fruitiness, that elegant acidity, I prefer slightly the Orea. All right, let's cool down and come back with the final result. As it cools down, the April Brewer still showcases that lingering praline finish that is quite on the soft side. It's not really harsh, it's very smooth on the finish. But we have lost some of the tropical characteristics and the sugarcane sweetness of it. Whereas the Orea maintains the juiciness and the sweetness for this particular coffee with this particular filter. Remember that it's using our roasting style and our brewing system. So the winner of this showdown is the Orea Brewer. Now let's bring all the contestants and do a final ranking. And we just finished that tasting. Second position for the April Brewer and number 1 for the Orea. So here's my ranking of the best flat bottom brewer: Orea, April, Origami, Torch, and finally the Caleta Wave. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series of flat bottom brewer showdowns, and see you next time for more videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share these videos with your coffee friends.